A man walked into a bank he partially owned and got treated like a criminal. What happened next shocked everyone. It all started on a Tuesday, late morning, warm enough in Austin to break a sweat just walking across the parking lot, but not unbearable. Darius Ellington parked his sleek silver Tesla in the visitor section of the Union Legacy Bank on Burnett Road. No valet, no reserved sign, just a regular spot. He liked it that way. No spectacle, no announcement, just business. He adjusted the cuffs of his navy blue blazer, checked his phone once, an unread message from his assistant, Mia, reminding him of the 11:30 meeting with the regional execs, and headed inside. The branch wasn't busy. A few customers sitting with their phones, one older man arguing softly with a teller, and a woman filling out a deposit slip by the window. A flat screen above the waiting area played muted business news, scrolling stock tickers, muted talking heads. Darius walked with purpose toward the front desk, where a young woman in a gray Union Legacy polo greeted him politely. "Hi there," he said with a smile. "I'm here for a scheduled meeting with Mr. Decker. Should be under Ellington Equity." Before she could even respond, another voice cut in, sharp and cold. "Excuse me, sir. Do you have an account here?" Darius turned slightly to his right. The voice belonged to a white woman in her late 40s, tall, thin, pinched expression. She wore a black suit and a gold name tag that read, Shelley Grant, branch manager. Her arms were crossed, and her tone had already shifted the temperature of the room. Darius kept calm. He had handled boardroom standoffs with billion-dollar stakes. This was nothing new. "I'm not here to make a transaction," he said carefully. "I'm the CEO of Ellington Equity Group. We're scheduled to meet with—" She cut him off. "I asked if you had an account. If not, I'm going to need you to step aside so I can assist customers who do." The young receptionist glanced nervously between them. Darius gave a half smile, trying to stay composed. "I'm not here to open a checking account," he said, this time a little firmer. "I'm here because my company owns—" "Sir," she said, raising her voice just enough for heads to turn, "I'm going to have to ask you to leave. If you're here on unofficial business, you cannot loiter inside this branch. I'll have security escort you out if necessary." And that's when it happened. That slow shift in the room. People stopped tapping on their phones. A hush fell over the background noise. One of the customers by the window paused mid-signature. Darius stood there for a moment, weighing his next move. His jaw tensed, but his voice didn't rise. "Is this how you greet everyone who walks in?" he asked. Shelley didn't blink. "I don't appreciate being questioned, especially by someone who refuses to identify themselves properly." Darius took a breath and reached for his wallet. "Fine," he said. "Here's my business card, and here's my ID. My name is Darius Xavier Ellington. Look it up. I'm not trying to cause a scene. I'm here for a pre-arranged meeting." She glanced at the card, but didn't touch it. "I'm calling security," she muttered, pulling out her phone. "I don't have time for this." But Darius wasn't going anywhere. Not now. Not when every eye in the room was on him. Not when Shelley's assumptions had already crossed a line that couldn't be walked back. Shelley's fingers moved fast on her phone screen as she walked briskly toward the back office. "He's refusing to leave," she said in a clipped voice, not bothering to lower her tone. "Yes. Burnett Road Branch. Now." Darius watched her go, heart pounding, not from fear, but from the old, familiar frustration. The kind that sits deep in your chest when someone looks at you and decides you're a threat before you've said a word. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't move an inch. He just stood there, tall and still, in his tailored suit, while people kept staring, whispering, judging. From the corner of the room, a man in a Navy trucker hat muttered to no one in particular, "He probably tried something funny. That manager was just doing her job." Darius caught it. Of course he did. You learn to catch these little comments when you've had to defend your presence in boardrooms, lobbies, hotel elevators, everywhere. Behind the counter, the young receptionist looked up again. Her eyes flicked toward him, full of something between apology and fear. Darius gave her a small nod. He wasn't mad at her. She was just trying to keep her job. Minutes later, 2 security guards appeared near the front. One was older, built like a linebacker. The other looked barely 20, still growing into his uniform. They didn't say anything at first, just stood there waiting for Shelley to return. And she did. Flushed, lips tight, heels clicking on the tile. "I asked you to leave," she said, now addressing Darius like he was a school kid caught skipping class. Security is here. You can explain yourself to them outside. Darius turned toward the guards. His voice was steady, but there was steel in it now. Gentlemen, my name is Darius Ellington. I'm the CEO of Ellington Equity. We own a stake in this bank. I have a scheduled meeting here in 15 minutes. I am not going anywhere. The older guard blinked. Wait, your name's Ellington? Yes, Darius said flatly. Look it up. There was a pause. Shelley opened her mouth to object again, but the younger guard beat her to it. Wait, like Ellington, he asked, pulling out his phone, tapping quickly. Like the investment firm? Darius didn't answer. He didn't have to. Sir, the older guard said, shifting slightly, can we just step outside and clear this up? Darius didn't move. I'm not stepping outside for anything. I'm not trespassing. I haven't broken a law. I came here for a meeting. I sat through traffic this morning. I'm on time, and I'm not walking back to my car just to protect somebody's pride. A long silence followed. The receptionist had gone quiet. The woman at the window froze halfway through her form. Phones weren't recording yet, but the tension was high enough that it felt like everyone was just waiting for someone to say the wrong thing. Finally, Shelley spoke again, her voice thinner now. Anyone can claim to be someone important, she said. You think people haven't tried that before? Darius looked at her, eyebrows slightly raised. I didn't claim anything, he said calmly. I provided ID. I handed you my business card. You refused to check either. You didn't ask for confirmation. You assumed. And now you're spiraling to cover a mistake. Her cheeks darkened. Don't turn this into something it's not. What exactly is it then? Darius asked. Shelley hesitated. Everyone could see she had nothing, but she wasn't going to back down. Not yet. And just then, like clockwork, the doors opened, and a man in a gray blazer walked in, holding a leather portfolio. He spotted Darius immediately. His face dropped. The man in the gray blazer rushed forward, expression tight with disbelief. Darius, he called. What's going on? Darius turned to him and nodded. Been wondering the same thing, Trevor. Trevor Hayden, regional vice president at Union Legacy, looked around at the guards, at Shelley, at the tense stillness in the room. Can someone explain why the CEO of one of our largest investors is being confronted by security? Shelley stepped forward, fumbling now. I didn't know who he was. He didn't give his name at first, and he didn't... That's not true, Darius cut in, calm but pointed. I told her I had a meeting. I told her who I was. She dismissed it, then escalated. Trevor blinked, taking it in. He looked at Shelley again, disbelief etched in every part of his face. You called security on Darius Ellington? By now, a woman near the waiting area had quietly raised her phone, hitting record. Another one followed. This was the kind of thing people pretended not to see until they saw it, until they couldn't unsee it. One voice spoke up, low and uncertain. Yeah, he never raised his voice or anything. She just kind of went off. Shelley looked around, realizing her footing had vanished. I didn't. This has nothing to do with who he is. I was just following protocol. Trevor took a slow step toward her. Protocol doesn't include humiliating clients. It doesn't include refusing to check credentials. You didn't even ask the receptionist to verify the meeting, did you? Shelley opened her mouth, then closed it again. The security guards stepped back a little, like they knew this wasn't their mess anymore. The room had changed. Before, people were just watching. Now they were witnessing. A moment. An unraveling. A reckoning. Darius adjusted his jacket, exhaling quietly through his nose. He wasn't smug. He wasn't gloating. He just stood there, letting the silence tell the story now. Trevor sighed. Shelley, I need to speak to you in the back, now. She turned slowly, her expression blank, not angry, not ashamed, just stunned, like it had never occurred to her that there might be consequences. As she disappeared into the office, Trevor turned to Darius. I'm really sorry, man. This is... You don't have to, Darius interrupted. Let's just go to the meeting. He glanced around the room, locking eyes with the woman holding up her phone. She quickly lowered it, suddenly unsure of herself. But it was too late. That moment, when Shelley called security, when Darius stood his ground, when Trevor walked in, it had already made its way to the internet. And once it's out there, there's no pulling it back. They walked side by side down the hallway. Trevor still shaken. Darius still composed. The glass-walled conference room was ready, bottled water on the table, projector warmed up, folders laid out, the kind of prep you only see when a top-level investor's in town. Darius didn't say much as they sat down. He opened his portfolio, clicked his pen, business mode. But Trevor couldn't move on that fast. "I really am sorry," Trevor said again, softer this time. "I had no idea that—" Darius raised a hand gently. "Let's not waste the next 20 minutes on an apology I've heard too many times in too many places." Trevor nodded slowly. He looked tired, embarrassed. "Understood." The door opened and two more executives walked in, both white men, mid-50s, jackets already off, smiling like nothing had happened. One of them, a VP from Dallas, extended his hand. "Mr. Ellington, pleasure to finally meet you in person," he said. "We're excited to talk growth." Darius shook his hand, gave a small professional nod, but behind his eyes it was still there, that sting, that heat. The meeting began, percentages, projections, strategic shifts. Darius delivered like he always did, clean, focused, razor sharp. But something had changed. The tone in the room wasn't just corporate. It was cautious, careful. Everyone knew. The elephant wasn't just in the room, it was sitting at the head of the table. 20 minutes in, Trevor's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Then again, his face tightened. "Excuse me," he said quickly, stepping out. Darius kept going, breaking down numbers, asking questions about the branch's Q2 performance. The men nodded, shuffled papers, but their rhythm was off. They knew the temperature had shifted again. 5 minutes later, Trevor came back in. His face said everything. "Sorry," he said, looking directly at Darius. "That won't happen again." Darius didn't ask what he meant. He knew, and when the meeting wrapped, the two VPs shook his hand a little too earnestly. Trevor walked him back to the lobby. The receptionist was gone. The guards were gone. And Shelley Grant? So was she. "She's been terminated," Trevor said plainly. Darius looked around the now quiet lobby. "Did she say anything before she left?" Trevor hesitated. "Just that she didn't know, that she thought you were pretending to be someone important." Darius almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because of how predictable it was. "Pretending," he repeated. "That word always finds its way in, doesn't it?" Trevor didn't answer. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, not knowing what else to say. "I don't want her to lose everything," Darius said finally, "but she should have lost this job. That much is clear." Trevor nodded. "It's not just about her. It's about what this says to every person in this company." Darius gave a slow, small nod. "Then maybe something good comes from it." He stepped toward the doors, then paused. The same woman from earlier, the one who'd been recording, was now standing outside near the parking lot, on her phone, her screen still pointed toward the glass doors. But now it was more than just her. Two more people stood nearby. Another pulled into the lot and stayed parked. Word was spreading fast. And by nightfall, Darius's name wouldn't just be trending on finance blogs. It'd be trending everywhere. By that evening, the video had already hit over 2 million views. It started on TikTok. The caption was simple. "Black man denied service at a bank he owns. Watch the manager's face when the truth hits." From there, it spread like wildfire. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Then the blogs picked it up, then the local Austin news, then CNN. The video didn't need commentary. It spoke for itself. Darius standing calm, explaining who he was. Shelley brushing him off, the awkward pause when the guards hesitated, and the moment Trevor arrived, eyes wide, stunned, realizing exactly what had happened. Clips of the confrontation made it to late-night TV. Commentators weighed in, some focused on Shelley's tone, others broke down Darius's response. Calm, measured, firm. Not once did he raise his voice. The internet called him everything from a class act to the blueprint. But Darius didn't need praise. He needed people to listen, really listen. The next morning, his phone didn't stop buzzing. Calls from reporters, emails from PR reps, invitations to speak. One national morning show wanted him live on camera. A magazine asked for a feature. He ignored most of it, except one call from Trevor. "I'm not calling to clean up," Trevor said. "I just wanted you to know something." Darius leaned back in his chair, looking out over downtown from his office window. "Go ahead." "Shelley called this morning. She wanted me to pass a message to you directly." There was a pause. "She said she was wrong." that she panicked, that she'd never been called out like that before and didn't know what to do. She said she didn't expect it to blow up. Darius didn't respond at first. He stared at the skyline, fingers drumming his desk. She didn't expect it to blow up, he repeated slowly. That's the part she regrets? Trevor exhaled on the other end. Yeah, I heard that too. There was silence again. I don't need her apology, Darius said. I needed her to do her job with some basic respect. That's it. Trevor didn't argue. I figured. Just thought you should know. Later that week, the bank issued a public statement. Polished, careful, the usual lines. We do not tolerate discrimination. We are reviewing internal policies. We are deeply sorry. But that wasn't the end, because customers started closing their accounts, quietly, then loudly. Some filmed themselves doing it. Others emailed screenshots. The same woman who posted the video uploaded a follow-up. I've banked here for 12 years. That ends today. It wasn't just about Shelley anymore. It was about every Shelley in every office who made assumptions that turned into action. Darius didn't speak publicly right away. He watched. He listened. Then a week later, he sat down for one interview. Just one. A black journalist from a respected outlet flew in from Los Angeles and met him in the same office he ran his company from. Glass walls, clean shelves, no trophies. They sat across from each other, no studio lights, just conversation. You didn't yell, the journalist said. You didn't argue. How did you stay that calm? Darius smiled slightly. Because I've been here before, not in a bank, but in offices, hotels, even elevators. You learn to carry proof of who you are. Not because you should have to, but because someone's going to ask. She nodded. Do you think this will change anything? I think it'll start conversations, Darius said, and maybe the people watching will recognize themselves in Shelley, or in the guards, or in the receptionist. Maybe they'll stop seeing calm black men as suspicious. Maybe they'll just see a man doing his job. But there were still more questions to answer, more layers to pull back, because what happened to Darius didn't begin or end in that bank, and now he had a decision to make about what came next. 2 weeks later, the conversation was still alive. It wasn't just about Darius anymore. That video had cracked something open, something wider. People started sharing their own stories. A black dentist in Tempe who got questioned trying to cash a 6-figure check. A Latino engineer in Tampa accused of trespassing while walking into a corporate building he worked in for 8 years. A South Asian woman in Phoenix who'd been asked to show extra ID at a car rental counter despite already holding a reservation. It wasn't the same story, but it was the same pattern. Darius kept a low profile during the noise. He didn't chase interviews. He didn't start a hashtag. He let the moment breathe. He wanted people to sit with it. But one evening, while scrolling through emails on his laptop, a message caught his eye. Subject line, he reminded me of my son. He clicked it. It was from a woman named Jeanette from Portland, white, in her mid-50s. She'd watched the video. Her words were honest, shaky, unpolished. She wrote, I saw how that manager looked at you. I've seen that look before. I've probably given it before, if I'm being honest. I just didn't realize it then. My son is 24, tall, brown-skinned, adopted. Every day I worry that someone's going to see him the way that woman saw you, like he doesn't belong. Darius read it twice, not because it surprised him, but because it was the first message that didn't try to fix anything. It didn't come with advice or spin. It just admitted something real. He forwarded the message to Trevor with one line. This is why it matters. Union Legacy didn't wait long. New training protocols were announced. External audit firms were brought in to examine patterns, hiring, service, client engagement. The company had no choice. The eyes of the public were on them now. Meanwhile, Ellington Equity saw an unexpected rise in inquiries. Young professionals reached out. Black and brown business owners looking for guidance. A few white CEOs, too, quietly asking how to avoid a Shelley situation inside their own walls. But Darius wasn't interested in telling people how to look woke. He wanted systems, not slogans. He sat with his leadership team and laid out a plan, not to capitalize, but to educate. To build something out of this that might live beyond headlines. They created a grant for minority-owned startups, funded partly by Union Legacy as part of a corporate reparative effort. No press conference, no ribbon cutting, just real money quietly moved into real hands. And while some people moved on after the buzz faded, others stayed tuned in because this story was no longer just about a bank. It was about how fast people decide who belongs and who doesn't, and how that decision, made in a blink, can change everything. A month later, Darius was invited to speak at a leadership summit in San Francisco. It wasn't the kind of event he normally accepted, too much fanfare, not enough impact. But this one was different. It wasn't about tech or finance, it was about accountability. The auditorium was packed, students, managers, executives, a few familiar faces from TV. Darius stepped up to the podium in a charcoal gray suit. No slideshow, no branding, just a folded sheet of notes and a full room waiting. He began the same way he had in the bank, calmly. I didn't walk into Union Legacy that day to make a statement. I walked in for a meeting, but someone else decided the story before I opened my mouth. He paused. The room was quiet. She didn't ask for my name, didn't ask what I was there for. She looked at me and decided I didn't fit the picture. He looked down for a moment, then back up. And that's the issue. This idea that you have to look the part before you get to speak. That respect has a dress code. That belonging has a face. People nodded. Some scribbled notes. Others just watched. What happened to me isn't rare. The only rare thing is that it was filmed. That someone with reach got caught on tape doing what too many people get away with in silence. Then he leaned forward slightly. But here's the part people don't always want to hear. Power doesn't excuse you from this. Status doesn't shield you. I'm a CEO, sure. But if I'd lost my patience in that lobby, if I'd raised my voice, none of that would have mattered. A beat passed. You see, perception is the real currency in this country. More than money, more than titles. The way someone sees you often decides what rights you get to keep. He let that hang for a second. Then he folded the paper in half and placed it down. I don't want sympathy. I want reflection. I want the next receptionist to speak up. The next Shelley to pause before acting. The next bystander to say, that's not right, even if they're scared to say it out loud. The audience stood, not clapping to be polite, clapping because they'd just been handed a mirror. After the speech, someone asked him what advice he'd give a young black man starting out in corporate America. Darius didn't hesitate. Know your worth, but carry your proof. Until the world stops asking for receipts, show up with all of them. But this story still wasn't over. Not until Darius decided how to truly close the chapter, not just for himself, but for the people still walking into rooms where they're seen as intruders instead of leaders. A few days later, Darius sat alone in his office. No cameras, no reporters, just the quiet hum of his desk lamp and the city blinking beyond the windows. He picked up his phone and scrolled through the texts he hadn't answered. One stood out, from Mia, his assistant. You handled it better than most would have. Thank you for showing people how to hold power without shouting. He smiled, not because it felt good, but because it was the reminder he needed. This wasn't about being perfect. It was about being present, about standing your ground when people expect you to shrink. He looked at the photo on his desk. His dad in an old mechanic's jumpsuit, grease on his knuckles, holding a baby Darius in one arm and a wrench in the other. That man had worked 14-hour days to build a life where his son could walk into a bank and belong, and even now, decades later, that fight wasn't over. So Darius sat down and started writing. Not a press release, not a speech. Just a letter to his future son. He didn't even have kids yet. But he would. And one day, when they asked why he didn't just let it go, he'd hand them this story and say, because silence never fixed anything. If you're still watching this video, here's your part. Don't just be shocked, be honest. Ask yourself where your assumptions start and what they've cost someone else. Speak up when it's uncomfortable. Stand up when it's easier to blend in. And the next time you see someone being treated like they don't belong, don't look away. Because maybe the person standing there doesn't need your sympathy. They just need your voice.